right, back at it. Athlete Builder, round four with a CrossFit Games athlete. Shout out Sam Briggs, our most recent one. She was generous enough to connect me with Dan Bailey, uh, awesome athlete who married another awesome athlete. His wife's Alex, world class gymnast, weightlifter, All American, national champ. Dan himself, D1 athlete from Ohio University, Southeastern Ohio. Went on from there just to be more and more athletic and fitter. 5 times been to the games, won the Open, won the Spirit of the Games. Very, very fast. Ran the 100 to 200 to 4, the 8, and all the other crap after that. But the 400, man, the pain race, he ran that. I like the 100 way better because it's over quick. But we got Dan Bailey on today. We're going to talk fitness. We're going to talk evolution of CrossFit. We're going to dive into his faith because that seems to be very prevalent in who he is, and it's everywhere. When we were doing our due diligence. Dan, thanks for coming to the show.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on, and thanks for that great intro.
You're welcome. I'm from Ohio too, so I'm born and raised in Cleveland.
Okay, there
and
we go.
All my family went to MAC schools except for me. I went to Purdue, and I have a cousin that went to OU. So first question, how was the Halloween party down there?
Halloween is crazy down there. There's I'm sure it happens at other campuses, but I can remember there was whole like a week run up with all the athletes of like meetings about Halloween. The cops come in and talk to you. Like everybody comes in to have like just to make sure that nobody does anything foolish enough to get themselves tossed in jail. But it's crazy. I mean, Court Street completely shuts down. I think one of the years, I think I only went 2 years. And one of the years I went, just walking downtown, I was a goody two shoes. So I got out of there probably by like 10 o'clock. Like I was out. I didn't want to get in any trouble. But I remember walking down Court Street and there was literally a group of guys who had constructed a pirate ship on wheels. They were on the pirate ship, like moving it down Court Street, and they were all it was crazy. They were all pirates on the ship. Like it was wild. So most of the people that get arrested at that thing are all from out of town. It's like 90% of the people come in from out of town and cause a problem. But it's a cool event.
It's pretty famous. It's been talked about in different magazines. Like you said, they shut down the street. Alumni come back. The size of campus swells up like it's a big, big game day. Man. And then there's tons of booze up and down the street. There's tons of whatever, and it's pretty famous.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yep.
big party.
So what's also cool around that area of Ohio, southeastern Ohio, is Hocking Hills. Have you been out there as well?
Yeah, several times. Yeah, it's a little gem that I don't mind that not more people know about it. Like I'm okay if nobody knows about it, but it's already pretty well known and pretty crowded at this point. But Hocking Hills is awesome.
For sure, for sure. Are you a Joe Burrow fan?
Yeah, I mean, just the fact that he's from here and from, Ohio and southeastern Ohio at that playing in Ohio and Cincinnati. Although he's had a rough go here the past like 2 years, I feel like, but hopefully things turn around for him a little bit.
Yep. Is that where your gym's located? Southeastern Ohio?
No, I'm actually in the Columbus area.
Gotcha.
I'm like just northeast of Columbus, like
Gotcha.
outside the 270 belt. Yeah.
Gotcha. Are you an Ohio State fan too, or no?
Oh yeah, big time Ohio State fan. Yeah, absolutely. I noticed you're wearing that Alabama hat. I'm sure we could talk a lot about that. How you guys somehow snuck into the playoffs again.
Right. Yeah. So Alabama's not my school, but my daughter's a rower there, so
Okay.
so I got to support them. I went to Purdue. I love Ohio State. Indiana got the best of them. They played strong in the Big Ten title game. They deserved to win. Um, Shoot, we got a kid that went to IU, one at Butler, one at Ball State. My son plays football there, so it's all over. When you got 6 kids, you cast
Yeah.
a big net.
I love how well the Big Ten, and not just the Big Ten, but like all the teams from the Midwest have been doing in college football in just like the last 3 or 4 years. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
I hate Michigan with a passion, but the fact that they did so well, now Indiana's doing great, we're doing great at Ohio State, like that's just really cool to see those 3 states have teams that have been dominating over the past 3 or 4 years. That's really cool.
for the longest time it was the SEC, and my daughter would say, the SEC it just means more, which is their tagline.
Yeah.
But being from the Midwest, yeah, I like to see the Midwest teams wins. And having been to Purdue and being an Ohio State fan, no part of me wants to watch Indiana, but I watch a lot of their games. That Signetti is everything I want to be about. Like I love what he's done there, and I'm raised to hate IU after going 2 degrees from Purdue. But man,
Right.
I love what he's done. Uh, so just give everybody a little background on Always Train. That's your main business, and how that's evolved over time, and when you started it, and what the overall premise and how you execute. What's going on there?
Yeah, so Always Train is my programming website. So I offer 3 or 4 different programs on there: bodybuilding, GPP, strength training, and a competitor track for basically like if you want to compete at Wadapalooza or the CrossFit Games or whatever. It's a very general track. It's not one-on-one coaching or anything like that. But they all have like my little take on uh, what I like in fitness and like how I would do things a little differently than just the standard. So, for instance, the bodybuilding track is called Clang and Bang, and there's a very high intensity version of that. So it's basically like CrossFit, but with bodybuilding movements. So you're doing dumbbell curls, you're doing, tricep extensions, you're doing dumbbell flies, you're doing those things mixed in with time domains, rep schemes, and some of those other qualities that come from CrossFit, right? But then there's also a classic plan with it as well that you can do just regular old school bodybuilding with. And the premise for the business in the name comes from the fact that you should always be training in some way. Like every day is a training opportunity. It's a learning opportunity, whether it's failure, whether it's success, whether you feel like you didn't accomplish much, whether you did accomplish a lot. What can you learn from that? What can you take from it? How can you use it to make you better every day? And that part actually stems from a quote from Brad Bell, who's a pastor at the Well Community Church out in Fresno, California. And he said, you won't build your memorial in a day, but you will build it daily,
Mm-hmm.
right? So your memorial is not something that just, comes like that, like the headstone, the whatever you're going to put on there, whatever you do with your life. It doesn't happen in a day, but it does happen daily. So every day you need to always train,
Always
right?
train. Rent is always due. Uh,
Right. Yeah, sure.
right.
Yep. Yep.
And so you're either building or staying stagnant or deteriorating in some areas, and sometimes you're going to be out of balance, right? I would imagine that when you're training for the games, your training was out of balance with maybe your personal life, your professional life. You're not as overwhelmed with the games now and training, so maybe the pendulum swings where you have more time to allocate, family and other professional things, right? So
100%.
it swings back and forth. In that vein, as a D1 athlete, and you're running track, right? So you got to be as fast as possible. What was your welcome to college athletics leaving high school? You're like, oh man, it's a little different here. It's not as easy. Or tell me what that was like early on.
Yeah, there's 2 things that kind of stick out in my mind. One was like I think it is either at an indoor race. It might have been an indoor race, maybe at Bowling Green or Eastern Michigan, one of the tight 200-meter tracks, and I set a PR and still took like third. you know,
Right?
I set a PR and didn't win.
Right?
Like that's you go into the big pond like that, and things change, especially in track and field. Things change really fast when you start running collegiately. And the other one was like watching some of the guys that would beat me in the MAC championships and would beat our 4x1 or 4x4 team, and then seeing them, some of them like crept into the NCAA regional meet. So you're not even at NCAA finals yet. This is just the NCAA regional meet. And then I'd watch them get crushed at the NCAA regional meet. And then, when you're talking the fastest 8 or 9 guys in the country in the quarter mile, there is no room for error, and they are so fast. Like it's so fast that unless you've run, you don't quite understand. You know what I mean? If
Right?
you look at the clocks and the times, it's like, well, you only lost by a second and a half. It's like, oh no, you got blown out. Like that's like losing a basketball game by 35 points.
Mm,
You got absolutely smashed, right?
right? Right?
And so those were like 2 big wake ups, because it was always my plan to run professionally eventually, and by my junior senior year, it was kind of apparent that like, hey, it's just not in the cards for you, not in this sport. Like it's just you don't have it. You're not good enough. It's very cut and dry when it comes to track and field.
Really, and those individual sports, and it's a team sport as well, but It's, did you make the cut in golf? Did you win the one-on-one in tennis? Did you cross the line first, right?
Yeah.
In the race. Um, when you're running, what was the favorite race of yours? What's the one like, hey, I love this one?
Oh, that's tough. Like I honestly did love the 400 because
Oh,
because of the grind, because of that
right.
right there, the noise you just made. Like that's kind of why I loved it
Yeah.
because the tough people run it. You know what I mean? You have to be mentally tough to do that. And there were definitely days where I wasn't, and those were days where you didn't have a good race, right? If you don't have your head right when you're in the blocks on the line, ready to go, you're
Yeah.
not going to have a good race, right?
Yep.
But I did enjoy that one just because of the competitiveness in the last 150 meters, especially with a bunch of guys who are really good and you're all right around the same times.
Hmm.
You just have this vision of these people are right next to you running. You're all gassed. You know that everybody's hurting like really bad, but everybody's just pushing as hard as they can towards the finish line. So I really did enjoy that. If I had to pick one that I would have preferred to be good at, it would have been the 100. If that would have been,
The
I
fastest
would
guy
have,
on the planet.
yeah. And just the training for that is, I don't want to say it's easy because it's not. There's still hard components of it, especially in different parts of the season. But the training's way more fun. It's way more enjoyable. It's way more, uh,
You're not running a whole bunch of 400s.
yeah, you're not always feeling like you're vomiting. Like there's not
Right. Yeah.
those test days that come around for the quarter mile are bad. Like
Yeah.
it is,
Right.
it is just you have to go to that place. But honestly, I think that's what gave me a leg up in my quick rise in CrossFit. Um, I was used to that pain. That was a very familiar thing to me. It was not something that like I didn't expect to have or didn't know how to deal with when I got there.
You max out a back squat or a deadlift, and from the time you unrack in the squat and stand up, it's 6, 8, maybe 10 seconds if you're really slow on that grind. When you're looking at 47 seconds on a one lap around of holding that same level of intensity where your eyes want to fall out, where you've watched the 100s, they finish, and sometimes they're not even breathing. They haven't taken that many breaths over that 9, 10, 11
I
seconds.
mean, it's between I can't remember what the best in the world do it in, but usually you're looking at like 44 steps
Hmm.
is usually like a world class 100 or maybe under that, somewhere around there. I can't remember what I was exactly, but yeah, it's over so fast.
Have you been out to Eugene to watch national championships?
I haven't. It's a giant regret of mine. I need to get. It's on the bucket list for sure.
When people ask me and my wife about a sporting events to go to, that's one of our top three typically to go to out there and just you see the greatness. Everything matters, right? But they're still college athletes. Everything's measured by seconds or inches. So super, and it's just legendary place. Steve Prefontaine, Nike's out there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
How about like having known I'm very superficial at the sport in terms of my overall knowledge, but if you follow Shakari Richardson at all, she is a sprinter, 100, 200, even the four and when she wins, she's like violent about it. When she's crossing the line, she's looking at people as she's crossing, and it just likens it to like David Goggins' approach where I'm going to take your soul that day. And you got to think your next time up, like that's got to be in your head, right? You, you, you guys play any head games in athletics?
Uh,
Favors
they
yours?
they do. You can, and it's but it's way more subtle. It's not something if you don't
Right.
understand the sport, like if
Sure.
you're watching, you're not going to notice it. But for a lot of guys, especially in the 100, it's how long are they taking to get in the blocks? What are they doing? Like when the starter says on your marks, and you're supposed to drop down and get into the blocks, you don't
Yeah.
want to be the first person in there.
Because you're
You don't
waiting.
want it because you're waiting and you're
Yeah.
waiting and you're getting tense and you're sitting down and you're not. That's just not in a race that is decided by hundredths of a second, maybe a thousandth of a second here and there. You don't want to lose any advantage. And so there's been races I've been in where guys are taking forever being stubborn with one another. And they're not
Nope.
looking at each other, but they know what they're doing. You know what I
Right.
mean? Everybody knows what's going on. Where the starter will have to tell everybody get up. And they'll have to get everybody up, and then they'll call out the athletes. They'll be like, lane 5 and lane 7, get in your blocks. Like, stop it. Like, cut it out. You
Wow.
know? And um,
It's part of the
that's
gamemanship.
part of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
part of the gamemanship. And then to your point with like Shikari, like erupting at the finish line, that's all in you at the start. But for the 100 in particular, that has to be, all that intensity has to be channeled very specifically, because where you're not like uh, physically taxed like you are in the quarter, in the 100 meters, at that level especially, the technicality of it and every step you're taking and your body angles, your from your first three steps out, you could lose the race in the first two steps, like that. You could be that far behind where like it's over, you know. So even though you have that kind of anxiety and the anxiousness and the adrenaline at the starting line, it has to be very calm, collected, and like focused on what you're doing, you know. So when you do win and you cross the finish line and you can let all that out, I'm sure that's part of what that is.
You're building up, and I remember the announcers were explaining it, and every once in a while you'll get a good announcer that teaches the average fan like me. They're talking about Usain Bolt, like his first few steps weren't straight ahead. His legs would push out a little bit and exerting force, not exactly vertically or straight ahead, but out a little bit, which is wasting. But he had so much power he couldn't do anything else.
Right.
But once he reaches that top end speed and you're striding and pulling, you can see him. You can see him when they just kind of just send it, and it's like,
Oh man.
So
It,
when you're
it,
at that stage when you do that, it's like, wow, look at that, look how pretty that is.
yeah, it made no sense that even with that start and how tall he was, that he could start as fast as he did. Because as soon as he stood up and got to like full stride,
Yeah,
like his turnover rate plus the like length of steps or length of each step, it's unbelievable. I mean, 9.58, you know, I
gross.
never thought that was gonna be possible. Didn't think I would see that in my lifetime. Like under 9.6, are you kidding me? Like that's not gonna happen ever. And but to your point, the not necessarily trash talking, but kind of, we had a Midwest meet of champions at the end of high school. So it was the best seniors from Ohio, maybe Pittsburgh, Indiana, and Michigan. And they put together a track team. And so there was the Ohio team versus Michigan versus Indiana versus whatever, and you all went and had a meet. And I got invited to that to run the quarter mile and then the 4x4.
Hmm.
And I won the quarter mile.
Nice.
And then our 4x4 team had a guy on it named Jason Craig. And there were two guys when I was a senior who were world class, like who could be world class. You know what I mean? It was Jason Craig and Ted Ginn Jr.
I know him.
Yeah, so he
Yeah.
was young. He was younger. He was a sophomore, I think, when I was a senior or junior. But I mean, he had the talent that if he would have ran the 400 that year, I would have taken third, not second. You know what I mean? That just goes without saying. He was a 46-second guy, like maybe under that at that time. But Jason Craig was the same way. In the 200 meters, he was like in high school. I think he still ran a 20 point or like a low 21, which is very, very fast for high school, Um, and he was our anchor on the 4x4. And the three guys that we had on the team before we gave it to him, we had a lead by maybe 2 yards, something like that. So significant enough. Jason takes the baton and lets the guy from Michigan pass him on the final leg. You can see him, and he's just looking at him, like lets him pass him, and then just sits behind him, like right on his heels, like almost on his outside shoulder. Like if the Michigan guy's here, Jason was right here, just letting him know he was right there. And I mean, these are guys who are running, 47-second, 40. They're not slow. It's not, And so they're doing this, and they come around to like the last 120, and he actually starts trying and just blows this kid out of the water from Michigan. It had to be so embarrassing for that.
Oh, man.
But Jason was one of those guys too. He was unbelievable, and he just crushed him.
People at that level that win like that, they have that extra gear, and
Yeah.
others don't, right? And
Mm-hmm.
your extra gear is still going to be awesome, but that elite level, they're going to let
Yeah.
you know who's dad, right?
Right. Exactly.
What was the welcome to CrossFit moment, whether it was in that Columbus regional or out at the games, and you're like, well, shit, I'm pretty strong, I'm pretty fit, I've been winning some other things, I can do a lot of things, my scores are good, I'm doing fine in the open, but hey, man, it's a little different here, right? What was that
Yeah.
moment where you're like, oh, okay, it's OU all over again?
For sure. In 2011, that was my first CrossFit Games, and I think coming into the stadium on, man, if it would have been Thursday night or Friday night, I was in the lead. And I think it's the only time I've ever had the lead. I might have to correct myself there at some point, but the next workout that came up was rope climbs and clean and jerks. And I was pretty excited about it. Like I could climb the rope. I could, I was strong enough, love clean and jerks. And I did terrible in that workout. Like I just did bad. And I shredded my hands and fingers, got all ripped up, all bloody everywhere. And then going home that night, like waking up the next morning, like my hands were cooked. I was super sore. And I was just like, oh, wow, like I have another 2 days of this. And like I'm already feeling it, after day one or day 2.5. I can't remember what day it was for that. But yeah, I mean, that kind of thing right
Right.
there.
You're like,
You're kind
you're
of
close.
flying high for a moment and then all of a sudden, boom, right back down, rock bottom, watching everybody kind of pass you by. And then you're not feeling great after that. And I'm not in my comfy gym or the easy regional, not easy regional, but the regional where I could prepare a little bit better. It's like, oh no, real deal here. And things aren't going the way you want. So how are you going to respond?
It's always the deal, right? It's event plus reaction equals outcome, right? And it's not just event equals outcome. And you're sitting there in pain and you're like, well, shit, I got more to go. And so you got to break it down and find a way to move forward, which, athletes keep advancing or don't, at that
Yeah.
point. The sprinters are supposed to be pretty powerful and they lift. The 2 milers, the 5Ks, they don't lift nearly as much, right? And you're in the sprinter world, so you're going to be doing lifting for sure. But there's a difference between training to be a college sprinter and then being a well-rounded games athlete. The absolute strength has to go up. Your proficiency and other lifts have to go up. How long did it take you to go from college to that 2011? I didn't see the year you graduated. So take us through that bridge that gap, and how you evolved as an athlete into that different sport.
Yeah. So I graduated college in 2007. And then I was a track coach and PE teacher out in Fresno, California, with a friend of mine for about 2 years, roughly. And I was still just kind of running, and I would run with the Fresno Pacific University track team every now and then. I still thought about doing some competing with that, but really it was just kind of like I was just trying to hang on to something that I loved. Um, and then I was out there till around 2009 ish, 2010 ish, and I moved back home to continue some schooling, and that's where somebody who was in the Akron Rec Center, his name was Will, he said I needed to try CrossFit. Right? He's like, oh, you ran track and field, you competed, you might like this because the workouts are competitive. You compete with your gym. And so I think he had me do Grace 30 clean and jerks for time. And I probably wasn't hitting all the perfect standards with it, but I think the first time I did it in right around 90 seconds. So like a minute 33 to a minute 35. And he just like put the stopwatch down. He's like, you're coming to the gym tomorrow. He's like, you need to come. He's like, that is not a time that anyone has ever seen, at that
Right,
point, right?
right.
And I hadn't even been doing anything. Like I'd just been lifting, doing some occasional running. I ran a little bit with the Akron track team while I was going to school there, just because I knew the coach. So I had no real CrossFit training. That was just from, being a sprinter my whole life and having some God-given talent. And so I started going to the gym at CrossFit Legacies in Barberton, Ohio, with Brian Yoke as the head coach, and just started going to the classes and doing really well, and beating a lot of people at the gym and being one of the best ones there. And they're like, well, you can compete in this in the open, and then they crown the fittest man on earth. I'm like, well, that sounds pretty cool, but I was kind of on the fence about doing it because those jobs I talked about in Fresno, I kind of got laid off from those positions. Like some of the money dried up for this PE position I was in, and same with the extra coaching positions at Fresno Pacific. And so I was basically moved back in with my parents while I was going to school,
Hmm.
and living in their basement. I'm like, man, I got no business doing this anymore. Like if I'm doing anything, I need to go work. I need to get a job. I need to, do whatever. But there was something on my heart that was telling me to do it. I say that was God speaking to me, telling me that this is a path that I want you to go down, even though it may not make sense to you. Uh, and so I signed up for my first competition. I won the sectional that year, only having done CrossFit for like 2 or 3 months. and then didn't make it to the games that year, the regional. I was doing really well all weekend, and then like the last one or two events, there was just some skills I didn't have yet, like snatching and either bar muscle ups or really good chest to bar pull ups that some of the guys with more experience did, and they just kind of took the lead away from me. I just wasn't prepared yet. But then the whole next year I trained, and that's when I won the Open, and then that was my first games appearance after that. After that, I was kind of like, I want to do this. Like, I know that this is what I need to be doing and what I want to pursue.
In 13 and 14, I went to the regional in Columbus, and I think when I first talked to you, I mentioned that there was this one workout where everything was 100 reps, and there's like dumbbell snatch at 100 pounds, but it started off with 100 handstand push-ups, and you're upside down and you're not kipping, and it was just, my God, that asshole is going to do 30, no, 40. Wait, is that unbroken at almost 50 without even using his legs? All right. I don't like him at all, but wow, right? So I don't know if you remember that one at all, but that was like, I just opened a gym in 13. I've been doing it for a couple years, 11 and 12 at another gym. And I'm watching this. I was like, oh, that's gross. Look at that. Oh my God. I'll never be at that level.
I remember that workout. It was one that was definitely, I was really excited about because it was something that I thought I had a chance at beating Rich at that event. So I did kind of go for broke on that first piece on those handstand push-ups to try to give myself a cushion. I knew I was going to get a little bit ahead and then see if I could hold him off. I can't remember. I might have been 50 handstand push-ups, like 100 double unders.
Yeah, right.
And then there was some shoulder to overhead with the axle bar right after that. And then like overhead walking lunges or something, or maybe the snatches were, I know it ended with overhead walking lunges. And he ended up walking me down in the overhead walking lunge. Like my arms were smoked, and I just couldn't keep the bar overhead. It was a front rack walking lunge, actually. My shoulders were cooked, and yeah, but that was a fun event. That was a good one.
That's the thing, like anything else. When a muscle group goes, it goes, and all you can do is wait. You know, it's done. I can't move now, right?
Right. There's always people in the stands or people from just that I've talked to. They're like, well, hey, I watched you on this thing, like, why didn't you just pick it up? And you're like, you don't understand.
Right. I don't know. Why didn't I think of that? God, I wish you were my coach. Why weren't you there?
Yeah.
Darn.
Right.
Talk about those athletes that are messing around getting out of the blocks, the equivalent in the CrossFit world. And because there's you'll see people like, you make a big tackle and you step over the guy, right? Someone's lying down dead on the floor after some barbell movement, and you walk over the guy, right? Talk about some of that and who does that and what's like. Does that even get in your head, or does it piss you off, or you're like, hey, that's kind of funny? Talk about that.
Yeah, in the time that I competed, there wasn't a whole lot of that, other than like celebrations at the finish line.
Sure.
People getting fired up for winning, or
Josh Bridges losing his mind.
Yeah, Josh Bridges. Yeah, he's big time one with that, and then. But some of that stuff I don't really remember ever dealing with. I think it was just because things were so new. It just wasn't a thing. Like the trash talk really wasn't that much of a thing. I mean, you might say something off the court about something like, yeah, I'm not worried about that guy, or, I'm going to crush him in this, or I know I'm going to beat him in that. But I don't think that, like on the field, poor sportsmanship, not even poor sportsmanship, but just the trash talk or anything like that, it wasn't a thing. I don't know how much it is now, but definitely there were times where people would say things on an interview or a podcast, and it would get a little traction on Twitter, X or whatever it is now, and some of the social media would buzz around for a little bit, but then, on game day, people would usually do the talking with their performance, and it's like you don't have to say anything else after that.
Favorite movements in the CrossFit world for you? Top 1, 2, 3?
Handstand push-ups for sure. I love power cleans, deadlift, so any kind of hinging movement. I'm a big fan of those. And then I would probably say like ring muscle ups, bar muscle ups, things like that. Some of the gymnastics movements, but yeah, those are some of my favorite.
Some things you don't like?
Thrusters, hate them.
Right.
Still to this day. And it makes a 95-pound bar feel like 1,000,000 pounds. It's just in disbelief at how hard this is to get this bar overhead when I can front squat like 350 and 95 pounds feels like it's just a bear on my chest,
Gross.
but for sure thrusters, probably wall balls too, which is about the same movement.
Same movement, right?
Yeah.
How about the fact that they've added a more of a strongman component in the last, 4, 5, 6 years with the carries, odd objects? What's your thoughts on that? And you like, or what's your take on that?
I love that. I love it because that's part of what it's about. Like especially at the games, even at the regionals level, the Rogue Invitational, like your training needs to prepare you for the unknowable. And so what everybody loves and associates with CrossFit is the barbell, right? So it's a nice clean line that sits on your body well, easy to handle, so to speak. And then all of a sudden, like you're going to get a sandbag full of sand that doesn't sit well on your body. It doesn't lift off the ground nicely. It folds around and flops around everywhere, and you have to deal with it. Like I love it. It's a way to throw a curveball to people. And a great way to show your work capacities, which is what we're all about. So yoke carries, sandbag carries, picking those things up, putting them on your shoulder. It's real life stuff that you're doing, whether you're doing jerry can carries or whatever it is, carrying your groceries inside. It's the same thing on some level.
Same deal. Two things I love about that component, especially, you're living in the Midwest, and I'll get some pushback when I'm saying we're doing sandbags, and I'll say, man, do you go hunting? Because when you shoot a deer, right, there's no bar going through its butt to pick that deer up, right? You got to squat down in an awkward position, wrap around it, and figure a way to pick that thing up, and haul it to, an ATV or something like that. So one thing I'm like, hey, for your life, you kind of need this, and I would argue it's more functional than a barbell, right? Because it's odd object. Two, when people say, "Hey, man, I'm doing this comp, but you know, here's my results. It's not like it was on training day," and I'm like, "Yeah, everyone has practice. Everyone lifts in the garage. Everyone goes to basketball practice. There's a controlled environment, but to make it a sport, it has to have that unknown variability. Whether it's raining outside, in tennis, you still got to play, but there's that unknown piece in the CrossFit world, or whether it's the venue, the weather, the objects aren't uniform. I'm like, there has to be some randomness to make it a sport. Otherwise, it's just training in a controlled environment, and you got to have that to make it fun.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. And like, yeah,
When you're, I'm looking at also your resume. It says I'm the head coach for Rogue.
yeah.
Talk
So
about what does that entail? What does that mean?
I'm just the head trainer there. So I coach the employees. It's an
Okay.
employee only gym. And so I run 3 classes a day, 3 days a week down at Rogue Fitness. And it's still technically CrossFit Columbus is the affiliate of the gym. Um, but yeah, so like anybody who works there has free classes that they can go to. And then if people don't want to join the class, I obviously still help them out if they want some other kind of programming or a workout for the day or anything like that. So I'm just kind of there for that. And that's what I do there.
I remember years back, the CEO, I can't remember his name, begins with an H.
Bill
Bill
Henniger, Bill and
Henniger,
Katie Henniger. Yeah.
right? They posted a job opening for the CFO. I'm
Hmm.
like, Chief Financial Officer. I'm like, well, I got an MBA, I got a finance background. That'd be sweet, And it also said there in the job description, must be willing to work out or something like that, right? And I'm like, that's absolutely part of their culture. So everyone there, they got to do something. They got to move, essentially, in some way, shape, or form. Not necessarily do CrossFit, but got to do something to try to be healthy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I mean, it's good for everybody who really, really works there when you look at the different things that people have to do at any facility really for a job. Whether it's you're stuck sitting at a desk, well, you need to go down and work out and open up your hips and take care of your wrists and make sure that we're moving some weight and still gaining muscle because you sit all day, right? And for other people, if you're working in a warehouse, if you're working a machine, if you're moving plates from A to B, whatever you're doing, it's like, well, you need to be capable and you need to know how to lift and you need to know how to pick that up off the ground and you need to know how to do it properly over and over and over again so that you don't get hurt, so that you don't, injure yourself, and so that you have that capability to do your job and go home and have no problems picking up your kid and anything else like that. So it's a great fit.
That's awesome. You know, um, my gym, the the average coach age is a bit older. And actually, I'll be 51, tomorrow as of this recording. My wife's
Awesome.
54. One of our trainers is 60, 61. The other guys are in their 40s, females too. And not only do you need to move to be feeling good, right? But more and more, a lot of times you're still not feeling good just because you're older, right? Like you have my wife has had enough knee issues, meniscus tears, ACLs that, yeah, then it's almost, she'll need a total knee at some point, but not quite yet. And we're kind of staving that off. So her knee doesn't feel great. But what I tell people, if your knee's not going to feel great, at least you want to have a knee not feeling great, but you're still decently lean, or you're decently still, have some cardio capacity. Because if you just sit down, well, you got a bad knee and you got a whole bunch of other bad things. So I can't say that training all the time takes all the pain or aches and pains away, as you know, but it does help keep a lot of them off, right? For sure. Go ahead.
The thing that was driven home to me because towards the tail end of my career, I had a series of injuries. 15 was my last time I was actually to the games, 2015. In 2016, I just had a bad season prep and I didn't make it in 2016. It was all 100% my fault. 17, I had a partial tear in either my bicep tendon or my pec on one of the workouts, so I withdrew. And then in 2018, like all the signs were there to take a season off. You know what I mean? Like I clearly needed a break. I couldn't string like 2 weeks of training together without having an injury, something popping up where I need to take 3 or 4 days off. I need to go to a doctor. I need to go have somebody take a look at something. And so like basically the way I put it is the check engine light was on, but I was still driving. Like I just kept cruising down the freeway at 85 miles an hour, and eventually the wheels came off. So during the open, I ruptured my quad tendon on a workout.
That's bad.
And yeah, that was a bad one. I didn't handle it well. I cried like a little. I had no idea what happened to my leg. That was the first time I'd ever had any kind of major anything like sports injury. And so when that happened, it would just kind of set off a chain reaction. Like I knew I probably had a hernia, sports hernia. I knew I had some kind of labrum tear in my left shoulder. So I just got it all fixed, right? In 1 year. It's like 3 surgeries. Let's just get it done with. Like you're not moving anyway, or you're moving minimally. And so I got paired with a series of really good PTs. And one of them, Jeff, he kept driving home to me, like as I started talking about getting back into competing, like even in 2019, he's like, you need to focus on minimal effective dose. It's like, what is the minimal amount of stuff you have to do to get the return that you want? And that's what you need to focus on. And so to your point with, my knee doesn't feel the same. Like it's great, but having that repair, like it's not the same. You know what I mean? I have other little nagging things like you're talking about. And so it's like, how do I train? What do I do? What can I do? What do I focus on that's still going to keep me functional and moving and capable of all the things that I want to do, but it's not going to push me into the red zone. You know what I mean? Like what is that? And everybody can find that out, and everybody should find that out, even if they're suffering with, well, I got back pain. It's like, okay, well, I'm sure we can find a way to train your back where, maybe it hurts a little bit, but it's not deteriorating even faster by sitting down.
Sure,
that's usually
sure.
the worst thing you can do, like you said, is just take a break and take a seat. And it's like, well, you're digging yourself an early grave by doing that.
In most things in the world, like there these bubbles pop up every once in a while, whether it was a tech bubble, a housing bubble. Companies will do that. You'll see entire sports where for the longest time in the NFL, it was a running league. Then it was a passing league. Now it's you can't, the defense can't touch anybody. So things get out of proportion or out of whack. And when we had Sam on, she mentioned that back in the early teens, 13, 14, the bubble there essentially was if you weren't paleo, you were like some idiot loser leper that needs to be ostracized. That carbs are horrible. All you can have is a sweet potato. And other than that, then you're just a loser, right? And so everyone thinks that, hey, everyone's doing this. These cross games athletes are doing it. It must be right, right?
Yeah.
Fast forward a decade, and people are like, those carbs kind of help. So from your standpoint, you've been in fitness for a long time. You've been an athlete for a long time. You've been competitive for a long time. You see things ebb and flow and evolve. What are a few bubbles, if you will, or things that have evolved in the CrossFit world that are like, way back when we thought this, but here's something that's better now,
Oh man, for sure. 100% the number one thing is training volume. Like, oh
right?
my gosh, we would beat the tar out of our bodies, from 2011 to like, I mean, 2015. You know, there's guys now who are smart enough, guys and girls. They're like, well, they finish the games or they finish whatever, and they take a month off. Where they're just focused on recovery. Maybe they swim or bike a little, or literally do nothing, right? Like, and just cruise. I mean, I don't know anybody that I train with that didn't maybe take a day off, and then we were just right back to like doing two workouts a day, like 2 sessions a day, over and over and over again, and sometimes 3 4 sessions a day. And it's just like it had some benefit in that, it kind of took you on this curve for a while, right? The adaptation could be really fast if you can handle it. Or, you know what I mean? If you can
Hold
stomach it
on.
and handle it and hold on. Yeah, hold on.
Yeah.
If you can, the wheels are like wobbling, about to fly off the car, but you're still kind of going down the road. Like you could gain a lot really quick, but like eventually, like I don't know anybody who I trained with back then, specifically Graham Holmberg, Bridges, Froning, any of us who don't have some kind of thing that is just going to hang around with us for the rest of our lives because of that attitude, right? So that was for sure a bubble. It was just like, and like just so much barbell, so much heavy lifting, so much, always doing those things rather than just focusing on a little more time on the rower, a little more time on with some gymnastics, a little more time with, whatever. And it slowly kind of got a little bit better, but at the same time, like the volume was just insane and a lot of unnecessary volume, and the guys nowadays, the guys and girls are way better, I think, at managing that, and at the time we didn't know.
Right.
You're in a brand new
Sure.
competition, brand new sport. It's like
Yep.
you're pioneering this thing, and it's not like anything else. Like in track and field, right away, the track and field is not like basketball. I can't just go out and shoot free throws. You know what I mean? You kind of can, maybe with some mental rehearsal, doing things, but there's a giant point of diminishing returns. Like if
Yes.
you have a really hard practice with sprints, whether it's quarter mile or 100, you need that 48 hours
Yes.
before you do it again. Sometimes 72 hours before you can really actually operate it at the speed that you want, because you don't want to learn how to run slow. If you do too much, you're just going to learn how to run too slow. Your stride length isn't going to be there. Your turnover is not going to be there. It's not going to be where it needs to be. So you need to have like specific rest periods built in. And what you're doing on those other days is still helping, but you have to just stop. You have to like sit and relax and stretch and maybe like just, have a day where you warm up and then you go home and that's it, right? With CrossFit, it's just like, well, we lifted so much yesterday. We got gymnastics today, and why don't we pair it? We didn't do cleans yesterday, so let's do cleans instead of the snatch, and let's do, and well, we can swim, and now we can go bike, and now we can go, and it just never ends. And so like the
Right.
intensity sits here, and it just keeps going across all these disciplines. It's in with the volume too, and so that's just what we did. We're like, well, let's do 2 workouts a day. Okay, that wasn't too bad. All right, let's do 3. Okay, let's do more. Let's keep pushing the envelope. And I think that's something that definitely the athletes today, that bubble has for sure burst. And the athletes today have a much more periodized or smarter approach to the season as a whole.
For sure. I totally agree with that. There was I've had a number of discussions with the West Side Barbell guys. If you've ever been there with Louis Simmons,
I have.
and then also like Tony Holler with Feed the Cats. He's a sprints coach. If you're familiar with him, he's out of Illinois.
I've heard of
Um,
them. Yeah.
and so the two completely different sports, powerlifting and sprinting, right? And so they both taught me essentially the same lesson when I'm talking to Louis and Tom, who runs it now. They said that, the Bulgarians were similar to the CrossFitters in that they would lift 3 times a day. They would only do a few movements, and they would always work up to 90 plus percent. So the intensity was very, very high. Their numbers went up very, very fast. They were winning everything in weightlifting. However, by 24, 25, every athlete was out of the sport, and they had to go through the next batch because the intensity was so high. So when Louis applied it to powerlifting, you can't max out your squat, bench, deadlift. You can't be at super high intensity that often, or otherwise you're just going to ruin your body. You can't, it's not sustainable. And I
Yeah.
talked to Tony Holler's like, yeah, when we run our sprints, if we do like 300-400s in a session and it's max out, like they're laying down on the track and then they go home. And
Oh, yeah.
the next day they might work on getting out of the blocks, maybe, and then they're gonna walk, and then they're gonna go home again. And because they're only gonna be that intense so many times a week, because it's not how hard you train, it's how hard you train, recover fully, so you can train hard again. Because without that intensity, you're going to be running slower, or you're not pushing as much weight, or your force production is lower. So to get some people to take a rest day or a deload week, or a deload like overall this next quarter won't be as intense. When you're at that high level, like you got to have some rest, otherwise you just keep breaking down.
Yeah. I mean, the workout and the training isn't what necessarily makes you stronger. It's recovering from it. Like
Yes,
the recovery that your body does from it is that's where you're actually getting stronger. Now you have to put the work in, of course. You have to provide that overload and that stimulation to get the response. But if you don't let yourself, you don't eat right, you don't go to sleep, you just keep training hard, hard, hard. It's like, yeah, you're just going to drive yourself straight into the dirt. You know what I mean? Like 100%. And Louis, like in the West Side Barbell guys, like um, the way I strength train now is better than I ever have, just because of listening to his podcast and all his little nuggets over the years in terms of like, hey, how you structure training, the variability of lifts that you use and how that fluctuates with the intensity of a movement. So if let's say, for example, one week you max out your back squat, that's probably the highest demand you're going to get on a squat, most
yep,
likely, right?
yep,
And then, well, the next week, if you come in and I max out my overhead squat or my front squat, it's like, okay, well, you're still stressing a particular muscle group to a max, but the intensity is way lower than that
right,
back squat.
for
Do
sure.
like his max effort method of just like rotating those exercises and always being able to stay relatively high for the exercise is just brilliant. I mean, I've been doing that for a couple years now, and I've PR'd my back squat and my bench press. I'm trying to get to 500 pounds on my back squat and a 400-pound bench press. I'm working on that right now.
That's
I'm at
fun.
485 and 375 on the bench, but it's the healthiest, smartest way and most fun way, honestly, to do things like that rotation of exercises and focusing on the variability of things.
I like how like you could take a press like it's a bench, but you could have three different grips, or you could have some other accommodating resistance, or it's a floor press, so it's not the full range of motion. So yeah, you're working as hard as you can, but not as hard as your body can if a full range of motion, 100% all in lift, and that's how I usually try to structure our heavy days in our gym. The other thing I took from him a lot was, okay, so maybe your bench is weak at the lockout, so it's going to be your triceps. Let's constantly hunt for weaknesses, find a root cause analysis. It might not be that double unders are the issue, it's that you're always practicing it when you're exhausted. Let's practice it when you're not exhausted first, get the skill down, and then we'll add some stimulus and see if you can still perform then. But if you can find the root cause and the limiting factor, now you got a real chance of improving as an athlete, as opposed to just doing tons of volume every day as much as I can. Well, let's just fix the weakness in the movement itself, and then have that be part of our training and move the needle that way.
Yeah, that's awesome.
When you're training now, right? Because you seem like you like to lift. If you want a 5 and a 4, you might as well do a powerlifting meet. Throwing the deadlift in there and just see where you're at. But you wrote here, you think that you like to talk about the most efficient ways to get strong and also the misconceptions of CrossFit. Which one do you want to talk about first?
So we kind of covered a little bit about the most efficient ways to get strong, and I'm like, I wouldn't say that I 100% do the West Side Barbell method, but I still throw in CrossFit and other stuff like that, obviously. But the way they do things and what we just talked about with rotating through exercises, finding weaknesses and working those weaknesses with different movements, that's the best way I've found to get strong and stay healthy. Right? You can get strong a lot of other ways that are very dangerous, right? Will put you closer to a bigger chance of injury. But the way to just slowly keep climbing that mountain, man, West Side Barbell Method, it does it in a great, great way. And then misconceptions of CrossFit, I think that comes from all those videos of just like the assumptions that it's just going to get you hurt. that CrossFit hurts people, that CrossFit itself hurts people. And one of the biggest distinctions that I try to draw to people or make people realize is like the CrossFit Games is CrossFit, but it's not what happens in the CrossFit box. It's not what happens in the cross. It's not. That is not. Those two things are completely separate things, right? Like they're interwoven in a way, but one is not meant for the other, right? And the other thing is like if you most of the time when I approach people, when you find people who think that well, CrossFit hurts people, and then like somebody who says something like that, and you scroll back through their feed and you watch them snatch, or you watch them do pull-ups, or you watch them do, and it's like, well, wow, your technique is like really bad, and you're
Yeah.
using way too much weight, and it's like that's why you're hurt. You know what I mean? Like, and the best coaches in CrossFit know and preach mechanics, consistency, intensity. Like I still have guys who've been with me for, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, and they just like, I had a guy just on Monday, he just got to use the barbell for snatch. He's been using PVC pipe for 3 or 4 months because, hey, it's just not right yet. You're not quite there yet. You haven't quite hit this little milestone here, and I want you to hit it before I put any weight on your arms. And I'm extreme with that, especially with employees at Rogue. But if you do it that way, it's like you're more or less guaranteeing that you're going to get the favorable outcome that you want. That's increased work capacity across broad time and modal domains, and you're not going to hurt somebody, right? Like there's this, and then with programming, like that's the other thing. Way too much barbell, way too much like super high intense 6, 8, 12-minute bangers with, heavy deadlifts, heavy power cleans, heavy snatches, heavy everything. And it's like, when was the last time you just did a workout with gymnastics, with not picking up any weight, with just doing push-ups, sit-ups, some pull-ups, maybe add a rest minute in there. You know what I mean? Are you varying the modalities enough in your week-to-week training that allows people to stay intense but not overtrain in particular movements or particular areas? And I think a lot of that pours into the gym from the games. Well, this is what happens at the games. This is what is exciting and sexy, so people will do that at the gym or do it at their home gym even. I'm not like just bashing bad coaches or anything like that, but they just see that stuff and that's what they think they have to do every day. And it's like, when was the last time you just came in and rode 10 by 500 meters? Then that's it. Like, go home. Like, that's CrossFit. Do you understand that? Like the monostructural day, just come in and do that. And maybe it's a 500-meter row. Maybe it's 500 meters for time. It's going to take you 90 seconds to a minute 40. And then you're done. And then you go home. And there's a reason for that, right? It's because the 2 days you had before it were a 20-minute AMRAP with Cindy and then Diane or DT with the barbell. And it's like, okay, yeah, we're going to hit this for 90 seconds because it's the time domain we haven't touched in the past 3 days. And then you're going to go home. And then you're going to take a rest day on Thursday. And it's like, nobody really wants to do that. They just want to continue to kind of beat themselves down. But that's not actually what the methodology preaches, right?
For sure. When people come in, they'll say, hey, Jim, I heard CrossFit hurts people. Does CrossFit hurt people? I go, yeah. So does running. So does So does weightlifting. So does everything, right? Let's be honest. Yeah, there's plenty of bad runners, right? Bad form. They still run every day because that's what they do. They'll say part of their identity, I am a runner, right?
Yeah.
So if they don't run that day, they are somehow less. And I'm like, oh man. So I'll turn it back around. Why do you think people get hurt in any kind of sport? I'll tell you, we got teenage boys coming in, and if you're a strength and conditioning coach in a high school, there's that measure and dick issue where it's like, hey, what'd you bench? I'm trying this. Or these girls are watching over here. Hey guys, watch this, right? So you could be doing anything, and your ego gets in the way. Shout out Ryan Holiday in his book, Ego is the Enemy. Listen to your coach. Move correctly. To your point. Mechanics, then consistency. Consistency takes a minute. You can't just, hey, I got it once. I'm good to go, right, Jim? I'm good to go. And then you got to think like long term. So James Clear's Atomic Habits, build your habits so that they're sustainable, right? There's some enjoyment to it. So you keep coming back and you're not like, man, this is pain all the time, right? You want to keep coming in and not be injured. So if you're always super intense, that's why I like CrossFit's approach with conditioning, how they a lot of different groups will really preach, interval training, 20 on 10 off, 30 on 15, 2 minutes on, 30 seconds, whatever. But you get your heart rate that back down. It's inefficient for your body, which is great for you to build capacity. But if you're constantly doing some interval training and movements that you move well, you're going to be in shape and you're going to be getting better. So just keep doing that. You know.
Right.
Also, I get in trouble where, well, that looks kind of cool, that's sexy. I'm kind of bored.
Yes.
Well, so now I need the new shiny toy. So
Yep.
because I probably have scrolled too much on my phone, so now I got to be overstimulated there. So please bring me the new shiny toy so I can make my training the new shiny toy, and
Right.
approach it like that. So anytime I get down that path, I usually end up getting hurt because I'm usually being stupid.
Yep.
Myself. Yep.
Yep. Me too. I was at a conference a long time ago, probably back in 12 or 13, for the NSCA. I think it was a TSAT conference, a tactical athlete conference. And that was a relatively new thing at the time. And somebody was talking about like how bad CrossFit was and something else. And I think he kind of referenced the games a little bit and what these athletes are doing. And it's like, I think I approached him after, I talked to somebody after, and I said, look, if your son or daughter is going to ride a bicycle, or you're going to teach somebody how to ride a bike, do you take them to the like Red Bull Mountain contest, set them on the bike, be like, here you go, and just
Right.
roll them down the hill? Like, what do you think's going
Right.
to happen? Like,
Tour
yeah,
de, Tour de France, day one, right?
yeah, you're gonna get killed. You're gonna get crushed.
Yeah.
Yeah, if the everyday gym goer, even somebody who's relatively well versed in the gym, sees a workout from the games and they walk into the gym like, I'm going to load up 405 on the deadlift. I'm going to do weighted pistols with a 53-pound kettlebell, some handstand walks, and ring muscle ups. Let's go. It's like, yeah, you're going to walk out of there broken. Like
Limp.
something bad is going to happen to you. And that's
Yes.
literally not what the methodology of the sport or a majority of the coaches would ever have anyone do. Right. So it's just that weird misconception of, you know, like you said, the shiny toy,
The
that
shiny
kind
toy.
of, right.
Yep. The So your wife's kind of a badass too, not just you there. And so
Big
all
time.
all American. This means you're tops in the country, right?
All
And
American in gymnastics on the beam. She did the beam. Yeah.
see, my mom stuck me in gymnastics, which I think is great for kids at a young age. It's great for everybody, right? And I'm on that beam. I'm in kindergarten, and I'm terrified. I'm falling off that thing. I could not stand it, right? But those people that are complete like flying Walendas on that beam and landing on it and not dead. It's amazing to me. But then she goes from there to weightlifting, throwing weight overhead, right? So when I tell my kids, hey man, if you want to not be selfish and make the next generation of BB athletes, then go out find another athlete and marry that person, right? So when you and your wife are weightlifting together over the years, is it like, hey, babe, check this out over here, and then when she beats you, right? Or how competitive does that get where you're not talking on the car ride home later? Because competitive people are competitive people.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But let me be clear, she's never outlifted me yet in a
Okay,
set. There were actually days though where I would have to go in if I had a snatch session and I would snatch, I don't know, 230, 240, 250, something like that. And I'd be like, hey, we can still date. Like
okay,
I was
right?
able to snatch more than you today. Like if there ever is a day that I don't, then that might be an issue. But the big difference there is I'm a good weightlifter. Like I'm good at clean and jerk and snatch. She's great at it. Like she is, and she's specified in that. And the difference is just like you could look at my snatch or my clean and jerk and be like, yeah, that looks like how it's supposed to be done. And then you watch her lift and you're like, oh, like that's
Oh,
actually what it's really supposed to look like,
that's
right?
really you can tell the athlete that does that. It's really pretty.
Yes.
And it's
Yeah,
like,
and
wow,
it looks effortless, like when
yes.
she does it.
Hmm.
She also went to the CrossFit Games in 2014. She qualified
Geez.
in 2014. Yeah, so that was like she didn't have much training going into that either, but made it. And that was actually the first place that we met. Was then
I,
at the athlete hotel. She was in the elevator, and I was walking into the elevator to go up to my room, and she was in there, and I said, I knew who she was because I was like following the season. I was seeing who made it and everything. And I was like, hey, Alex, how's it going? And she didn't say anything back to me.
ouch.
Yeah.
That's your welcome to Alex moment. So how did you have to take another swing at some point, right?
Yeah, and I did, and luckily this time it turned out a lot better. So we ended up getting married and got twins now. So
Hey, Alex, what's your Fran time, babe?
yeah.
So if I brought her on here, how would she tell the story on how you asked her out?
Oh, I'm sure it would be different. Oh, how I asked her out?
Yeah,
Yeah, I won't lie. I jumped right into her DMs. Yeah,
attaboy.
she had something on her story about she was doing bicep curls or something, like some kind of accessory work from training that day, and I said something stupid. I can't remember what I said. I need to scroll back and find it and like get that comment. But
You
I
should
said
take
something
take a
stupid.
picture and frame it and put it on the wall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as soon as I sent it, I was like, "You are an idiot," and I like punted my phone into the woods. I'm like, "She's gonna tell all her friends like you are the biggest moron ever like for doing that." But she was just really nice and responded back, and then we started chatting.
Took pity on you. Oh,
Yeah,
this boy thinks he's being funny.
right,
I'll give him
exactly.
I'll give him a shot. Oh man, that's awesome. So you have twins. Are they same sex twins?
No, different. We got one boy, one girl.
My brother and sister are boy and girl twins. So
Oh, okay, yep.
I don't know if you have that running through your family. Twins are different. Like they just growing up, they can sense what the other one's thinking and feeling. It's different, man. It's pretty wild. So good for you guys. How old are they?
A little over a year and a half. They were born in April, so or well, last April of
Yeah.
24.
Oh man,
Yeah,
good for
coming
you.
going on 2 years. Yep.
One of the things that you mentioned, I want to make sure we get into this definitely before we wrap up here, is there's a few guys in every sport that they point out that faith is a big deal to them, right? Some people faith is not a big deal. Some people say there is no life after death, there is no God, whatever. But some people completely disagree, whether it's Hinduism, Judaism, Christianity, etc. And you and Rich and others, at least in the CrossFit world, they make it pretty clear that Jesus is big for them. So my questions were like, faith ebbs and flows for every person over time. As you're evolving from an athlete over time, what is a time or instance where faith really carried you through? And when was another time where you thought, man, I thought my faith it really got tested here and I didn't do so well?
Yeah. If we rewind to um, two points really. When I first started CrossFit, right, like I mentioned, um, and thought I was honestly just being irresponsible with what I was doing and how I was living and doing whatever. But I felt God's calling on my heart to continue to do what I was doing to compete. Like I felt like that was what I needed to be doing, and that's where faith kind of carried me through there because I could have easily just shut it down and been like, I need to go get a teaching job and start doing this and forget athletics. Like I tried my pro to be a pro in sports and I didn't make it. It is what it is, and move on. But my faith brought me into the sport 100%. Like, and took me to capability of sharing the gospel worldwide. Basically, I've shared the gospel on other continents to people of something that I would not have ever imagined doing. Unless I took that step of faith, right, and believed in what my heart was telling me, what I felt God was telling me. So that's one way that faith kind of carried me into the CrossFit Games and competing and all that and everything that's come after that. A way where I don't think I responded well. And I've told this story before, but when I had all those surgeries, when I had all those injuries, like for most of my life, I've been taught through Athletes in Action, Campus Crusade for Christ, like other things, that your identity is found in Christ at the end of the day. Like, and my mission has always been the same. Something that I wrote in a book a long time ago: improve the quality of other people's lives through the saving power of Jesus Christ, right? And no matter what I'm doing, I'm able to do that. And no matter where I'm at, I'm able to achieve that goal. It doesn't matter if I'm competing or I'm coaching or I'm doing whatever, I can still achieve that goal. But when you start wrapping your identity into being the athlete and being one of the greats and being one of the best and being one of this and that, and then it just gets taken from you so fast. Like I understood what my identity was, but what I didn't really realize for whatever reason is that like all the prep and the reading of the book and understanding the verses and having that relationship with God is for when you hit rock bottom. It doesn't mean that you will not hit rock bottom because you will. You're going to feel awful. You're going to feel miserable. You're going to be depressed. You're going to be sad. You're going to not know how to get out. You're not going to like you're not going to know where to turn or what to do, you know? And I think that was a misconception I had, you know, because I've had trials in my life, but this was something very, very different, especially in the way that it happened, and some other circumstances that were going on in my life at that time just brought me really, really low, right? And it took me a while to kind of really realize, like, hey, like, this is not necessarily a bad thing. This is how this is supposed. This is why you trained in the Word of God for so long. It's for this moment right here. How are you going to respond, right? None of, you know, the Bible is incredibly clear that believing in Jesus Christ, putting your faith in Him, that He brings you into, you know, the family of God, and will get you into heaven. And He died as your sacrifice for your sins, so you can spend eternity with God. That doesn't promise you an easy life. Like, none of
Oh,
that.
like Paul.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty well laid out that, like, no, you're probably going to get pressed even harder now, you know, because it's what I need to do to you to get the best out of you. It's just like training. You don't get better unless you work hard, get pressed, get under the heavy weight, right? It's no different in life. Like, those things are going to come around. They're going to push you to be better. There's a guy who drove it home to me, really kind of just drove the stake into my chest when I was at one of the lowest points I could have been in. Like, there were mornings where, man, I'm not even ashamed to admit this, but I would wake up and just like cry for like an hour about how sad I was about everything. And I had nobody and nothing. And like, things were just not going the way that I wanted them to go. And I remember a friend, Brett, who I met through Rich, actually. He called me, I think randomly, just to see how I was doing. And like, I just dumped the truck on him with like everything that was going on, everything. And I'm like, look, man, I'm reading my Bible. I'm praying every day. I'm like, I'm doing all this and that. And he's just like, well, hey, man, it sounds like you're doing the right thing. So you're probably exactly where you need to be. He's like, don't get in a rush to get out. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, I was looking
Yeah.
for the lovey-dovey response, the it's going to be okay, everything's fine. And like, all I said is like, dude, you're doing the right thing. So you're right where you need to be. Like, just sit in it, learn from it, like, get used to it. Like, things will turn around, but you need to stay right where you're at and just absorb everything that's happening right now. And that was a time where I didn't respond, I don't think, properly in the attitude I have. But eventually it turned around, and it's changed my life since that point, for sure, in everything that's happened since then.
Mm. It's powerful that you have that moment. What a gift to have that bottom. That way you have the lesson, right? And then when you have the lesson, then you can teach the lesson and you can pass on to your own family as well. And then you can grow from that. But if everything's all roses, well, then everything's pretty easy. Then you're probably pretty weak because
Yeah.
you can't really handle the things. You go through that pain, then you can't. I remember the the regional workout that we were talking about with the handstand push-ups. Graham Holmberg, he's pretty well documented about his faith, and he's asked about. I think you guys huddled up and said a prayer before the WOD started, and basically he said afterwards is, "Hey God, if this is still the path you want me to be on, like I hope this is really the right path because I'm going to be in a lot of pain in the next minute and for a long time." And then I remember I was watching a documentary on Ray Lewis, and he's in jail, right? And because he's all about his lifestyle and winning, but not deep in his faith as he should have been. And he said he heard the voices where he felt God was saying to him, "Can you hear me now? Can you hear me
Mm-hmm.
now?" Right?
Mm.
And then I had Tim Tebow's episode on the Sean Ryan show was
Yep.
outstanding,
I
talking
haven't gotten to
about
listen to that yet, but I need to.
yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. When he's playing for the Broncos and they win the playoff game and they go into the next round. Because he at the time he was having 316 on his eye black all the time, John 316, and so his buddy asked him, "Hey man, did you realize what happened?" He's like, "Yeah, we won. We're going to the playoffs." He goes, "No man, you threw for 316 yards. Like
Yeah.
everything was 316." Like, and then he felt like in Tim's words, "Hey, I was off the path, off the path." For me, it was 1 year into running the gym. Like my whole background's finance, investments, JP Morgan, MBA, and stopped. And I'm like, all right, get certifications, business plan. I'm going to make people healthy and better. And I'm 12 months in, and picking publicly traded companies is different than running a small business of one person or two people, you know, figuring all that stuff out. Like, I have no idea. And I didn't have automatic systems for anything. There's no software. I'm just an idiot. And I sunk everything I had into it. And there's a knock at my door late one night, and I see the tow truck out front because they're going to repossess my car because I'm behind on payments. And so I convinced the guy not to by giving him cash. And then I have to call the company right then and there and pay off the bill, which means I use some other credit card. And then, he leaves and I still have my car because I'm, single parent at the time with three kids. And so, uh, I'm crying and upset and I'm calling. I probably called my sister at that time, called a couple others, but my sister was usually my confidant at the time. And she's like, Jim, maybe, maybe this health and wellness, maybe this CrossFit thing, maybe it's just not for you. You gave it a year. Why don't you go back to the investment world? And I was like, no, this is the deal. My calling is to get people better mentally and physically. This is the deal. And she's like, well, you're not good at it. I go, yes, that is absolutely true. And so I went to Catholic school, and my high school is all boys, Jesuit, St. Ignatius in Cleveland. And so for the Jesuits, it's ad majorem Dei gloriam, for God's greater glory. You're here for God's greater glory, right? So AMDG and a cross is tattooed on my left shoulder. And so if I'm off track, this means I'm not trying, I'm just about me. And if I continue to try to get people better, then hopefully when I see him, he's already going to be disappointed about a whole bunch of things, right? But at least maybe I could say, hey, I try to get some people better, So that's my whole why along the way, um, for what it's worth.
Yeah, that's awesome. Heck yeah.
So I want to be respectful of everyone's time, of course, and I can talk to you for hours. I'm having a great time. So one, thank you. And I always finish with these rapid fire questions. However, I got a couple others. Uh, would you rather win Olympic gold or the CrossFit Games?
Oh my gosh, what a brutal question. Man. Oh, I don't know. I honestly don't know. Uh,
Like if you won the 400, you know, in Munich, Germany, and they're playing the national anthem, or you're the fittest in the world and you're on the podium, everyone else is below you. Like,
I
which
know,
which one do you
right?
pick?
And like I had a little taste of that with the Invitational because we were Team USA and we won in 2015. Um, boy, I'd have to do some soul searching on that one, but right now I'd probably have to say the CrossFit Games.
All right, all right. If a team sport, because you played football, soccer, right? I'm wondering why they didn't have you, running back or returning kicks at OU. But if there were a team sport and you're playing as a pro, what would the team sport be?
Team sport, playing as a pro.
You don't have to
Honestly,
be
I would probably play the one that I didn't play nearly as much. It'd probably be football.
okay.
Yeah.
And what position would you play in football?
Um, Boy, at the time, probably would have been like running back or something like that. I'm nowhere near big enough for something like that anymore. But yeah, probably running back. Yeah.
230, 235 running back. I don't see a lot of CrossFitters doing real hot at 235 pounds, right? For me, I'd be a linebacker for the Cleveland Browns. Of course, we'd still only have two wins,
You,
but whatever. I don't care.
apparently, no one cares up there.
No one, not a soul gives a shit about that team.
No.
What do you listen to when you're training?
I'll listen to anything from rap, country music, podcasts. It doesn't matter. I can listen to kind of anything. I'm honed in on the lift and the task at hand. I don't need music. I could listen to nothing and still hit my lifts. It doesn't matter. But yeah,
What's a bucket list adventure? You and your wife, no one else, no kids, and you guys cannot have done it yet. It's not a repeat.
it's not a repeat. Me and my wife, no kids. Tour all of Europe.
Okay, that's a big one.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah,
gonna,
that's a
that's
big
gonna,
one.
that's gonna take a minute.
Yeah, yeah. Tour all of Europe for sure.
All right. Favorite sports movie?
Ooh. I mean, there's I can't pick one, but
Sure.
like there's
There's sure.
Rudy,
Yep.
there's Major League, Moneyball, Miracle. Miracle on Ice. I can't remember if that was the name of the movie or not. Um, those are some ones that come to
There's funny ones, there's serious ones, there's tragic ones, yeah, right. How about a favorite sport to watch?
favorite sport to watch. It probably have to be football again. Um, when it actually gets to like the playoffs, like basketball. Um, I like watching basketball. That's fun. There's so many games in the regular season, and like I've been to games where it's just like nobody's playing, like nobody's playing, but everybody knows like we got so many games this season. They don't always go all out. College football in particular, college basketball in particular, just where the stakes are a little bit higher, so the teams are more, there's more on the line for every game.
You don't seem to be like a big person of Vice, but if you can get to Vegas for like either a weekend or the NCAA tournament where you can sit in a sports book and there's 80,000 TVs, you want to talk about overstimulus, and you can bet like every game and any kind of parlay. You just sit there and you're just like looking around like
That
a
sounds
nut.
like a nightmare. That sounds terrible.
Super fun, super fun. How about an athlete to watch? Could be living, could be dead, could be whoever.
An athlete to watch, man. I've been so buried in my family and this house project. Like I have not even like paid a whole lot of attention to anything in sports. I don't even know if I've had. I mean, the one athlete I'm gonna watch because it's important to you and to me is Shador Sanders. Like we're gonna see how he does it. He's been like actually playing pretty well, even though we're not winning games. But I didn't have a lot of confidence at first. It was a little uncertain, and now that he's in the game, it's like keep him in the game. Don't take him out on when you need a 2 point conversion to win the game. Don't pull
Insane,
him out.
insane,
It's so
insane,
crazy. Yeah.
insane. And my brother's, he's texting me. He's like, "Hey, they just took him out in this last play." All I responded back was, "Yeah, they did." Yeah, of course
Yeah,
they
of
did.
course they did.
Of
Of
course they did.
course.
You got a favorite book?
The Bible, for one. That's easy. That's cheating. Um,
Which book in the Bible? Because I'll make it
James,
up. James.
probably
One,
James.
one James. Be thankful for the struggle, for it creates perseverance.
Yep, because it's like it's tangible. It's a little more tangible. I like that stuff. Faith without works is a dead faith. Not that works is a requirement for your salvation, but you should be out there working. Yeah.
How about a superhero? Could be a live person, could be a real person, could be fictional.
Favorite superhero period was Superman, probably. That was always just can fly, he can do everything. Obviously, he's got kryptonite. There's something there that can trip him up, but Superman for sure, and just the way that he would do battles. His respect for life in that way. But then, I mean, my dad is my superhero. He actually passed this year,
Hmm.
uh, and so losing him was tough, and he was just a one of a kind dad. Like he was just it's something that it's hard to put to words. You just know it when you see it, and you know it when you're around it. And he was a great dad.
Oh man, good for you. It's really awesome that you miss him, right? Because
Oh yeah,
the alternative isn't so cool, right? So, man, what a blessing to have that.
right. I think that's what I talked about. One of the first, when he did pass was just like it's such a privilege to be in so much pain in this kind
Yes.
of pain. Like it's because people who don't have dads, they had terrible dads. Their dads beat them. You like go on and on and on. It's like, man, I'm probably more of a rare case than most people with how great he was. It's funny doing all these projects on the house and everything. And one of my family friends told me I was going to do this, and sure enough, I do. Like when I get stuck on something, I'll reach for my phone
Yeah.
to call him. Like I'll
Yeah.
reach for it. And I'm just like, oh man, like wow. But I'm glad you prepped me well enough. Like I'll figure my way out of this. Like absolutely, you know.
That's the soldier that loses their arm in battle and still looks for their arm when you need it, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
How about a villain that you like?
Thanos. You know why? Like, it's because he had like a real reason. Like, I don't like villains, obviously, but they capture something great in him where most villains are this way. They think they're doing a good thing. They think that they're doing the right thing. They think that their way is correct and it's going to be the answer when really they're just horrible, awful people for doing what they're doing. Selfish
Yep.
people, you know?
Marvel is huge on humanizing the villain, so you have some like identifying characteristics, so you kind of understand why they're making some choices. The Star Wars world are just like, yeah, Darth Vader's just, he was he was treated really poorly, and now he just hates, you know. So it really kind of depends. But in the Marvel world, they try to do that, like with Thanos specifically. You want to get one lift. What's your favorite lift?
Only got one lift. It would be clean and jerk.
Okay.
Yeah,
Favorite quote? You already gave us one.
I did, and I need to. Acts 20:24 is kind of like my life verse. It's I consider my life worth nothing to me, if only I may finish the task set before me, the task of testifying to the gospel of God's grace. Basically, that none of us are good enough to do it on our own. We need Jesus to get us there. And then I need to look up my physics teacher's quote. I had to find that. It popped into the back of my head when I saw that question from you. And he left me with that when I graduated high school. You may never get rewarded for living a righteous life. It is its own reward. If you lead a righteous life, it makes joyous participation in an otherwise miserable endeavor possible.
Possible. Yeah. I saw that, what you wrote there. I'm like, oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Chad Spurgeon, you said. Yep.
Chad Spurgeon, he's a physics teacher. Yep.
Force equals mass times acceleration. I say it all the time.
Yeah.
Where can people get a hold of you?
People can get a hold of me on Instagram by sending DMs. Shoot an email over to info@alwaystraining.com if you got any questions about the training programs or anything like that. Those are probably the two best places. I've had to drop off YouTube a little bit while I've got these projects going on, but I'll get back on there here soon enough.
Awesome. Man, shout out Sam Briggs again. Luckily, Sarah Wright in my gym went to Mimi Mahan's event that had Sam at. So I met all through that, connect the dots. Now we had Dan Bailey on. So shout out for them. And then, Dan, thanks for being on. For those that want to get a hold of us, info@athlete-builder.com. Keep sending us questions. We're really blessed with your time, your authenticity, your lessons. I just really enjoyed it. And I'm really grateful for the gift you gave us today, Dan. Thanks so much.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on. Appreciate
All
it.
right. We'll see you.
See you.